Good evening, everyone. This is Raul with Arcade Amigo, and today, this evening, I was just relaxing here for a bit and wanted to talk a bit about the Nintendo Switch. Got the Nintendo Switch 2 right around the corner, and so that I just give this system a little homage, I guess, um, and just gonna talk a little bit how my experience with the system, some of my favorite games, and just to sort of give it a little bit of a farewell. Now, with the Nintendo Switch, one of the things that actually, I should say, no, I should, well, yeah, one of the things is that what I felt made it successful was just look at it right now. I have it in portable mode where it's off the dock. I have just sort of like a little simple grip case around it. Has a stand where I'm just kind of standing it up, and I can play it like this. Now, off screen, I am moving it with my Pro controller that I have. But if I wanted to, I could also pull the Joy-Cons off and play it that way. And just that right there, the versatility of the system, I feel like it was a big reason why the system succeeded so much. There was a lot of other reasons, but I feel like this is a big one too. Because it is cool. And nowadays we have a lot of systems that we can kind of do this with, but Nintendo has a pretty big name still where they're going to reach out to the casual audiences too, right? Like anybody watching this probably knows what the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally XR or the RG35XX Plus, things like that, right? And yes, they have the capability of, where you're playing them portably, hook them up to a TV and all that. So that concept is not necessarily new anymore, but Nintendo, I think, with the Switch really made that idea popular. And it started with the Wii U. I think like that's what they wanted to do with the Wii U. I don't know if the technology just wasn't available then or whatever the case might be, but this ultimately is what they wanted to do, where you have a system that is fairly powerful and that you can play it on your TV or just, pull it off of the dock and just play it on the go. Simple as that. And not only that, but also the versatility of the way you control it, right? So, for example, you got the Joy Cons on there. Like I said, I can pop those Joy Cons off or play with the Pro controller. You know, um, uh, Hold it in my hands, the way it is now, or stand it up like this, right, with the stand. And so it was just a very versatile system, and that was just really cool about it. And I think one of the things that made the system really unique and went past what the Wii U was trying to do. And I think also because it looked different enough than from the Wii U. Because I think the Wii U, I mean, aside from the marketing behind it and it just pretty much looking like an add-on for the Wii, the Switch looked like a different system, even though they're roughly about the same. Power-wise, they're roughly about the same. The Switch is a little bit more powerful, but it's different enough where people knew, like, okay, this is a different system, which was probably one of the reasons why the Wii U failed, was just because it just seemed like another add-on for the Wii. But the versatility behind it and all with the way you can play it and having it handheld, which Nintendo was already pretty popular for, it's pretty genius. And I'm so glad that Nintendo was able to do this. And in a weird way, keep gaming still grounded. And by that I mean that by the time the Wii U or the Switch came out in 2017, gaming was already kind of starting to go in a way where we're starting to look at like live service games. There was Overwatch that was really popular in 2016. But Nintendo comes out, right, and all that's like, here's a system where you can play on the go, play it on your TV. You got an awesome Zelda game with Breath of the Wild, and then you got Mario Odyssey, Super Mario Odyssey, and then you have Mario Kart, and eventually Smash Bros, and all the cool Nintendo IP games. And even though they're not as graphically intensive as what was coming out in the market at the time, it still basically showed the world like, gaming is mainly meant for fun, to have fun experiences still on. And while Nintendo, they're not my favorite game developer or anything like that. I'm not like a fanboy or anything, but I do acknowledge that Nintendo, I think, will still think is very important in the gaming industry because they do kind of remind us, right, that games are meant to be just for fun, right, and all where everyone else is really pushing the technological boundaries of what games can be, which is amazing. Um, at the time of this video, which is on the 3rd of June of 2025, earlier, I think it was today, they released a tech demo for The Witcher 4 on running on like Unreal Engine 5.6 or something, and that just looks insane. Um, Now I understand that's not going to be the full actual game. It sounds like this is just a tech demo, but even then, I mean, it's just crazy, right? Where video games are going. But sometimes we need to kind of be reeled back in and say, hold on, yes, that is cool, but let's just not forget, right, what made video games fun in the first place. And that's where I think Nintendo has a very important part in this industry. Outside of their business practices and all, I mean, that can do a whole other thing on that, right? So I'm not talking about that right now. I'm just simply talking about the games that they make and all. And you just can't deny that Nintendo does make quality video games that is meant for fun. Their systems are meant for fun, for usually for the enhancing the gameplay experience, right, outside of the graphical experience, and we're really seeing it with this generation with the PlayStation and the Xbox. Not that they don't have good games, but a lot of their stuff that's coming out is just, for me, it's kind of missing the mark on what made video games so um, beloved, and in the past days. And so for that, kudos to Nintendo for kind of keeping it real in a sense. Although, like I said, right, they are starting to kind of come up with these, or they're starting to take on some of these modern business practices, which it is what it is, right? But for the Nintendo Switch, though, I'm glad that it's still stuck to just making a fun system to play. Um, in a way, this is my favorite system of all time, but it's I'm just going to kind of scroll down through the games here so I can kind of see, so you can maybe get my point. I mean, I have a ton of games on this, right? And again, because of the fact that it's portable, it just makes it very fun to play or have access to all these games. Now, yes, obviously I have a lot of these games digitally, and so I understand that, that these games are at the risk of not being available after a certain point. Um, I'm hoping that eventually, I mean, I know that you can hack the system now. I'm hoping that I can do that later on where I can still maintain my library of games here, or I'll eventually emulate the ones that I really want. Um, but basically, my point being is the amount of games that I have on this range from a variety of different generations. And the fact that I can play so many of these games on one system here makes it my best favorite system to play on. Because, like, if I only had one system that for the rest of my life, as of right now, it would be the Switch, just because, again, I have so many of my all time favorite games on this system here. It was, you know, at least up until the 8th generation. Well, for Nintendo games, down to like, I mean, you can go down to like the 2nd generation or even the first, right? I mean, there is a version of Pong on this. Um, there's just so many great games on this that you can play. And it's just, having that all in the palm of your hands is pretty impressive. I know sometimes we get so caught up in the graphic fidelity of games and all that, but it is kind of nice that this technology exists now, right, where we can have all these video games here in one place. And there's a lot of them too. I mean, just a lot of like classic games, and again, modern games too, also indie games as well too, as you're kind of seeing, right, as I'm scrolling down through here, just all the variety of games that are on the system. I mean, it's just insane. And granted, I've played quite a bit of money into these games here, as you can see. But it's just because it's just a very fun system to play games on. But and so for that reason, that's why it's one of my favorite systems of all time. It'd probably be my favorite for that reason there. But if I'm talking about just like the system itself, like, okay, cool, you can play all these games on various different generations, right? That's awesome. What can I play on the Switch so that is very unique to the system? And that is where it's not a bad system for sure. It's not. Um, but I do feel that that's where it kind of loses a bit of points, though. Let's see. I have these kind of divided up by folders here. So now some of the games that are on my little folder here for Switch games, a lot of them were also on the Wii U, right? But like, what was really on the Switch though that you could, that was unique to the system? I mean, this game is hella fun. But like, there was Breath of the Wild. It was on the Wii U though. Is it a Switch exclusive? Kind of feels like it, right? I mean, with the Wii U just being a bit of a failure. But there's Tears of the Kingdom, that is a Switch exclusive. The remake of A Link's Awakening, Echoes of Wisdom. Skyward Sword, that's from the Wii, but has a nice HD version on this. Live Alive, which is a remake of old Super Nintendo game. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I mean, definitely became really popular on the Switch, but that's a Wii U port. Metroid Prime, a very good remaster, which borders on remake, but it is essentially the same game, right? That came out back on the GameCube. But there's Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread is definitely an exclusive, cool Switch game. Paper Mario, that's a GameCube game. Princess Peach, it's fun. It's a fun game. And yeah, it's a Switch exclusive. Ring Adventure, I got it just because I thought it'd be fun to maybe try to do some exercise this way, but I haven't really messed around with it too much yet. Super Mario 3D World, fun game, but again, that's a Wii U port. Same thing with this one. Super Mario Wonder, this is a Switch exclusive, which is really good. Super Mario Odyssey, same thing too. I mean, these two games right here are just amazing. One of the best 2D platformers. One of the best 3D platformers. Just great games. Super Mario RPG, it is a Switch exclusive, but it is based off of an old Super Nintendo game. Super Mario Bros. Ultimate, great game. I mean, very revolutionary. The amount of characters in it is insane and all, but it is based on the Wii U version. Same thing with Xenoblade Chronicles. This started its life on the Wii. Xenoblade Chronicles X, cool, we have it now, but it did start its life on the Wii U. Yoshi's Crafted World, I think this is a Switch exclusive. So not a lot, right? When it comes to like Switch exclusives, at least from what I have, right, and all. I'm missing like Kirby's Forgotten Land, things like that. But really, there's not a whole lot, at least out there for me, right? Where I can say like the Switch exclusives on this were really good. But what is there is really good, though. I mean, I can't deny that. It's just that when I think sometimes of like the best, Nintendo systems, right, and all. I mean, for me, if I'm just looking at like the games that you can play only on the system, at least at the time, I mean, the Super Nintendo's probably still takes the trophy on that. I mean, just like the ones that are just exclusive on this, or just the ones that are on this Nintendo Switch Online. Like The Legend of Zelda, Links to the Past, Super Metroid, Super Mario World, the All-Star Collection, Super Punch-Out, Donkey Kong Country trilogies, Yoshi's Island, F-Zero, Star Fox, Mario Kart, Earthbound, Super Ghosts and Ghost, and on and on and on, right? I mean, these are just certified classics that even to this day are still really fun. So, again, if we're talking about like exclusives that were available on the system at the time, I'd give it to the Super Nintendo for my favorite Nintendo system. But it is just hella cool, though, to be able to play all these games, though, on this handheld device. And it is aging. The technology on the Switch is aging. I mean, it's the Switch 2 is definitely coming out where the Switch could use a pick me up. Yeah, And the Switch 2 is already going to be a bit underpowered. But I'm really curious to see just how powerful it is, though. From what I've seen, I'm going to guesstimate it that it's between like the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox Series X, which is pretty impressive for a handheld, right? Um, but it is behind, though, right? Already, as far as technology goes. So, but again, you get Nintendo for the Nintendo games and also for the gimmick of it, right? And where it's portable, it's a portable system. And I'm curious because I pre-ordered Cyberpunk 2077, and so I'm just kind of curious to see how that game looks because I think that'll give me a good feel of like what to more or less expect, right, power wise from the Switch. Um, like what to expect for like games going forward afterwards. But it's not like the Switch was a slouch so completely, right? When it comes to graphics, I mean, roughly the Switch was about as powerful as, let's say, the Xbox 360, the PS3, give or take. But look at this, though. I mean, this is very impressive looking. And you could say it's kind of cheating because the foundation of this game is based on a sixth generation game, Metroid Prime. Metroid Prime was a stunning looking game to look at to begin with. And this remake just really, brings this world to life. Um, so, the Switch might not be the best place to play a lot of games, but it's certainly not a bad place to play a lot of games either. And again, just the portability factor of it. It's just so cool. So my history with the Switch is I got the Switch in about 2019. What I really got was, I'm going to show you here in a bit. This is what I really got at first. The Switch Lite. Minus the pink cover. This has kind of become my daughter's now, and I got her this pink case, which kind of protects it pretty well. It's got a case all the way around, and she mainly uses it for like Minecraft and such. But that's the first one that I got though, and at the time I was kind of going through a dark period with Nintendo where I wasn't too interested in what they were doing. I really liked the GameCube. And the Wii, I was intrigued by it at first, but then I kind of fell off of it pretty quickly. So when the Wii U came out, I just wasn't really that interested in it. I like the concept of you being able to play a handhold and then on the TV, but I don't know, it's just something about the Wii U that just never really attracted me to it. And then the Switch came out, and at the time I was like, okay, it just kind of looks like another Wii U, so I wasn't still too interested in it. Um, but I finally got it though in about 2019 with the Switch Lite. The reason I got it was for two reasons mainly. One of them being because I kept hearing about Breath of the Wild. And that's usually been the case with me with a lot of Nintendo systems, is that I end up getting one of them because of one of their mainline games. So for example, the Nintendo 64, I mainly got it because of Ocarina of Time. The GameCube, I mainly got it because of Metroid Prime. And the Switch, I got it mainly because of Breath of the Wild. And I got it. So I got it in about 2019. So that was one of the reasons, right? I was like, okay, apparently this game is one of the best things of all, the best thing that ever happened to video games. Let's see what it's all about. But the other reason was too also was at the time. So let's see. So I got it about 2019. So my daughter was my oldest daughter was about 1 year old. And so I just wanted something to play handheld. And so the Switch was perfect for that. So I got it for that, and then once I got the Switch, and then I started like getting a bunch of games on it that like all time favorites. So I remember at the time. So my daughter was born, and then she was roughly about 1 year old actually, and I ended up getting this new job, and so just trying to fit in into a new job and trying to deal with, being a dad and all. And the Switch was just a good companion for that. Because I remember I used to take my Switch to work, and I used to play it on my breaks. And so I ended up getting, one of my my all-time favorite game, Final Fantasy VII, on it. Beat it on there again, and then I had this game, um, and slowly I was like, okay, I see the cool thing about the Switch. This is kind of cool, actually. The whole hybrid system or hybrid thing about it, right? Now, again, I only bought the Switch Lite at first, so it's not like I could plug it into the TV. But about a year later is when I was like, okay, so I wanted to get the original one, and so I could dock it to the TV, and that was cool. Um, like I said, the Breath of the Wild, I had a hard time getting into this game at first, but then eventually it just kind of sucked its claws into me, and then I just really fell in love with it. Um, and so yeah, so then when I got the original Switch version, um, being able to get to dock it and all that. Um, oh, 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 got it. Oh wow, but it didn't die. Um, it really is cool. Again, playing this level of quality and handhold was really impressive. Um, I was never too much into handheld video games. Not so much because I didn't want to. I just never really had a handheld video game, like for example the Game Boy and all. So I know for some people, uh, they're not too fond of the Switch just because they kind of took away handheld gaming. What we used to know it as back in the day. But I can't deny though that it was cool though, right? Being able to play, pretty high fidelity games um, on the go like that. I mean, it was pretty cool. Yeah, but this game right here, I mean, Breath of the Wild is it's just so fun. It really is like a virtual playground that you get to play in, and it's just so fun for that. I mean, this was really a genius game from Nintendo. Not quite my favorite Zelda game. I still prefer Ocarina of Time, but I can't deny that this game is pretty amazing too. But like I said, I didn't get into it that much at first, so I had a hell of a time trying to understand it. Um, I just kind of struggled with it at first. Um, but then eventually, I don't know, I kept doing like the shrine challenges and started, getting more hearts and stamina. And then things just started kind of clicking. And where I got to the point where I was like, okay, this is actually pretty fun. Um, and then I ended up beating it. And just the last scene, right, with when you fight Ganon, uh, especially if you get the four, what are they called? The four guardians, I think, or you and and the little extra boost of power that you get at the or advantage that you get on that fight. It's just awesome. I mean, for me, it was like one of the coolest like video game moments. I just thought that was really cool. But yeah, Breath of the Wild, pretty stunning. It's a gorgeous game to look at too. I mean, it doesn't have the highest resolution, runs at kind of chugs along at a 30 frames per second, if that. But it's still nice though. The art direction is really nice and all that. This is what makes a lot of games timeless, where sometimes it doesn't matter that it has the best fidelity. It's just that the art design, the clever level design, and all that is on par. That usually trumps like having the best graphics out there. But I am excited though to play this one in Tears of the Kingdom with the 60 frames and 4K patch on the Nintendo Switch too. But I think if you were to say what defines the Switch, like if was there a game that defined the Switch, I think most people would probably point to this one, right? Um, yes, it started on the Wii U, but really was made popular on the Switch. I mean, it was a launch title a Switch, a Zelda game, I really think that this game defined the console in a lot of ways. Um, just a great game. Definitely one of Nintendo's best games. Not my personal favorite. I prefer Metroid Prime and Ocarina of Time more. And I think Super Mario World. I think I have it ahead of this one, even Super Metroid. But it is right up there with those. Um, just a great game. But yeah, I mean, the Switch eventually, as my daughter got older, like I said, I showed you that pink one that I have. She plays on that from time to time. My wife is not, she doesn't really care for video games and all, but she ended up getting herself a Switch because of Mario Wonder. She thought that the game was pretty fun that she got herself her own Switch. So she got a Switch Lite. Um, and so I got the Switch Lite and then the original Switch. But then when the OLED version came out, I did get this one and the screen on this is just beautiful. Um, I'm really kind of curious to see how well the Switch 2 screen can at least match up to this one. Because this is a gorgeous looking game. I mean, sometimes I like playing games in handheld just because it just looks really nice. OLED does make a big difference. I mean, it ended up prompting me to get OLED TVs. One in my office and then one in my a 77-inch OLED TV in my living room, where I do a lot of my not only gaming but also like movies and such. And it was mainly because of this right here, because of this OLED. And I was like, damn, OLED really makes a difference. So because I like the screen so much and all on this system, I'm going to keep the Switch. I kind of thought about maybe selling it, to help with the, funding the Switch too. But on one hand, I really like the screen on this one, right? And then as the years go on, I'm going to kind of go back to this one and then maybe see if I want to modify it, or maybe my Switch Lite. I like it the way I've done to my 3DS now and to my Wii U also. But also because we don't really know what the backwards compatibility is on the Switch too. I mean, it seems like it has a pretty high percentage of games that it can play okay, but we don't know yet because Nintendo never sent out any review copies where it had that ability to play those two also. So I'm just gonna hold on to my Switch, just in case. Um, and it's compact enough and all that, right, where it doesn't take up a whole lot of room. So, but yeah, Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Metroid Dread, um, being able to play a lot of my old favorites. One of my favorite games of all time, Fantasy Star, and the Sega Ages version of it. Just a lot of the user friendly quality of life improvements that it made on it, and being able to play that game in a very fun, way. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just great. Um, yeah, kind of show you something here. So it took a few years, but Nintendo eventually gave the ability to create folders. Um, so I just have them grouped up a certain way, like between generations. So second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. Then some indie games and all, Sega games, Nintendo games. But I have this folder here for best games. So these are my favorite games of all time. So I have them organized from like my favorite down, and I have like games that would be in my top 200 of all time. Now, not all of them are available on here, but a pretty good portion of them are. So like on my top 200 favorite games of all time. And that's because, like, for example, on the there's um like some of these compilations, right? There's several games in those compilations. So just with the Super Nintendo one, like there's Super Mario World, Super Metroid, and The Link to the Past that are on this. There's several Sega Genesis games on there also. Um, and I mean, so many games on here that I can play, and they might not be the best way to play them, but they're not a bad way to play them. Um, so some of my favorite games of all time. So here's kind of a spoiler alert, right, onto what some of my favorite games are. So like Final Fantasy VII is my first. This is my fourth favorite game. Fifth, we're missing Chrono Trigger, but then seventh, eighth, ninth, and then I put 10th here for the Nintendo 64 for Ocarina of Time, and so forth, right? Um, so yeah, so it's just cool to be able to have access to so many of these games. That's why this system is just very beloved to me. I just, I just have so many games on here right now that I just, some of my favorites of all time. But yeah, but that's the Switch. It's it kind of brought back the multiplayer to also aspect in my life where I get to play some multiplayer games to an extent with my family. They like playing like Super Mario Wonder. Super Mario 3D World is a popular one right now. And it's just, Nintendo just has that kind of secret formula, right? Where it's a hit with the families, basically, for people that are generally non gamers. And then, obviously for gamers, right? And all we have a lot of things that we can play on here that we really enjoy. So, such a good system. I hope the backwards compatibility on the Switch 2 is pretty reliable. I have to try to figure out a way to get more memory on it because it comes with 256 gigabytes, and I don't know how much of that is usable. And then you have to get a micro SD card, which I have a 256 ones on order, so that'll bump it up to like about 512 gigabytes. But on this one here, I have a terabyte of memory card on it, so I'll have to kind of consolidate some of my games on the Switch too for now. But yeah, I hope it's, and that's why I'm excited about the Switch too, because if it's anything like the Switch where I can play, so let's just say like if the majority of my games that I have on here, right, are playable, and then I get like some of the newer stuff, so Cyberpunk, Final Fantasy VII Remake, there's rumors that Red Dead Redemption 2 might come out, Elden Ring, things like that, then it will be kind of a haven for being able to play some of my favorite games of all time on one system. And that is very intriguing to me, even though understanding the whole thing that Nintendo's seeming like to go digital only, game key cards, and all that crap, right? I understand all that. But at least for right now, it's cool to have that I'm going to have access to a lot of my favorite games of all time on one platform. And, like I said, I'm pretty confident, although, again, it is a bit of a gamble that I'll be able to hack these systems in the future. And, that way I can try to maintain my library as much as possible because I won't count on Nintendo to keep their servers up on the system. I mean, give or take just with the Switch alone right now, I would say in about 5 years, 4 to 5 years, a lot of the games on the Switch that are Switch exclusive might be gone. So hopefully Nintendo maintains the Switch 2 for a while longer. But then let's just say 15 years from now, right? I don't know what's going to happen with the Switch 2, right? I don't know, but I'll be there trying to hack the shit out of them. So that way I can still have access to a lot of my games. Probably not the best idea, but I just don't have really the space to have all these games physically. So I'll just have to try to make do. But anyways, just wanted to kind of talk about the Switch for a bit and give a little bit of its due here before the new system comes out. My plan for the Switch 2, so tomorrow is June 4th. GameStop supposedly has it where you can stop by at 3 p.m. to pre-order it and then pick it up at midnight. Well, my time would be 9 p.m., I think. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to try to get it tomorrow there at GameStop because I couldn't pre-order it, about a month ago. So we'll see how this goes. If I can't get it, here, this time at launch, I should be able to get it here soon because I'll be trying. It's just a matter of if I can get in to actually get one. So we'll see how that goes. But my hope is that I can just go to GameStop, maybe wait in line for a little bit, get my pre-order, pick it up later tomorrow. That's my hope. So here's hoping. But other than that, signing off for today.